administration has ideas about what the press should cover, which shouldn't be so surprising. What might be surprising, though, is that it has plans in place to send government agents into newsrooms across America to watch over them. I'm not kidding. How's that for freedom of the press? Their plan is called the Multi-Market Study of Critical Information Needs, or CIN, and it's supposed to start this spring. Their intention is to send government workers into newsrooms to grill reporters, editors, and station owners about how they decide which stories to run. They want to find out how stories are selected, see what biases newsrooms might have, and ascertain if some issues aren't being covered enough. Supposedly, the plan was put together to figure out how to lower entry barriers for minorities in broadcasting. But even the FCC's own Commissioner Pai isn't buying that. Even he says it could easily be used to pressure media organizations into covering certain stories. He even wrote an op-ed about it in the Wall Street Journal. The FCC has put together 8 categories of critical information that it believes local newscasters should cover. Got that? The government has decided what it thinks the news should cover. And if that weren't insane enough, the FCC is expanding their regulatory powers in the new program to include newspapers, which it has absolutely no authority over. Some congressmen are saying it smacks of the fairness doctrine. That was a mandate that required FCC-regulated entities to offer contrasting viewpoints when covering big controversial issues. Basically, it tried to enforce balanced coverage from news organizations, which, let's be honest, is a joke because all news organizations have biases, so it hasn't been enforced since 1987. But some are saying this new CIN initiative is very much like that, in that it tries to dictate what the news should cover. Of course, the FCC is all, what? Us? Try to control the news? Never! But come on. If that were true, they'd realize they have no business ever even going through the front door of a newsroom. The U.S. proudly boasts freedom of the press in its First Amendment. But this initiative clearly shows freedom is last on the FCC's list of priorities. Tonight, let's talk about that.
A federal judge there has rejected a lawsuit challenging the New York Police Department's spying activities on Muslims. The court has ruled that the plaintiffs had failed to show that the NYPD's intelligence unit had discriminated against them by spying on mosques and other locations in New Jersey. The Center for Constitutional Rights, which represented the plaintiffs, has warned that the ruling could give the green light to more spying, that is, on Muslims elsewhere in the U.S. The 2012 lawsuit was the first to challenge the NYPD's spying operations against Muslim groups and individuals in the U.S. Well, to discuss that further, we're now joined by Linda Sarsour, who is the Executive Director of the Arab American Association of New York, and she's joining us live now from New York. Ms. Sarsour, thanks very much for joining us. Now, I want to get your reaction to this.
The new judgment from the judge doesn't tell us anything. We believe that unwarranted surveillance of the American Muslim community, both in New York and New Jersey, is unconstitutional. I want to clarify that there are 2 other lawsuits. One is a New York lawsuit against the New York Police Department, and we also have an open handshoe case against the New York Police Department and their surveillance program. So this fight is not over.
Right, and so if I could just play devil's advocate for a moment, people would obviously argue things like 9/11 was carried out, quote unquote, by Muslims, etc., and that Muslims should be surveyed more than other groups of people. How would you respond to that?
I would respond by saying that there have been many examples in our past 25 years where actually Muslims weren't the perpetrators of all terrorist activities. And I want to say that basing police and law enforcement practices on race or religion is not effective. And we saw that already in New York City with the stop and frisk policy, where the judge did say it's unconstitutional to stop all Black and Latino young men because they are Black and Latino. And we still have a continuous lawsuit right now in New York, and we feel very confident that our judge will be listening to the facts of our case, and our plaintiffs are able to prove that surveillance has caused great harm on the American Muslim community. We cannot put 800,000 Muslims in New York City under suspicion of terrorism. It is illogical, and it's very ineffective law enforcement practice.
Right, and so then going forward, considering this specific case has not gone forward and this specific lawsuit has not gone forward, what kind of an atmosphere do you think that creates then for Muslims?
I mean, unfortunately, this particular judgment does send a message to American Muslims that it's okay for the New York Police Department to spy on us because we are Muslim. And the message we're sending back into the communities is that there's still hope, that we're going to continue to fight, we're going to continue to advocate. And the New Jersey attorneys and organizations are filing an appeal. So this fight is not over for them either. And our fight in New York has just begun.
Okay, we'll leave it there for now.
The website's homepage to offer more information about the other avenues to enroll in affordable health care until the online option works for everybody. So you'll find information about how to talk to a specialist who can help you apply over the phone.
That was President Obama on Monday urging people who were trying to sign up for Obamacare and couldn't get online to call the hotline. Well, on my radio program, we took the president, we took his advice. We called the number that he gave out. A very nice, very pleasant woman named Earlene Davis picked up and answered every question we had, was very patient. Here's part of that conversation.
Hello?
Welcome to Health Insurance Marketplace Call Center. My name is Earlene Davis. How may I help you?
Yeah, hi. Is it Marilyn? You're on the radio. You're on with Sean Hannity on the Sean Hannity radio. Is Eileen, is it? Hello?
Earlene, no, sir. We're on the Healthcare Marketplace Call Center.
Yeah, that's who I wanted to call, but I want to make sure. You're on the radio. Is that okay with you? You have to say yes if you want to be on.
It's okay, yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. No, I didn't hear your first name. What's your first name?
My name is Earlene.
All right, however, the very next day, Earlene was fired. And she joins me now to explain why. Earlene, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate you coming.
Yes, sir.
All right, so you were, by the way, you were kind, you were patient, you were helpful, you answered every question. Wasn't that what your job was, to answer the questions? The president gave out the number?
Yes, sir, that was.
Okay, did they ever tell you can't answer questions on a radio show? Was that ever part of your training?
No, sir, I never knew about that.
Yeah. Okay, so you took my call, you answered all our questions, which I think was actually a benefit because we have a big radio audience. We're on over 500 stations, and so that would result in fewer people calling. But the next day, what happened?
They fired me.
Walk us through what happened. You come into work, and what happened?
I got escorted to HR, which is Human Resources, and it was 4 of us, including myself, in the office, and they locked both the doors, and they waited until they had me on speakerphone with one of the head ladies, and then they finally got in contact with her, and then I could barely understand what she was saying, but I did hear she said, "We can't have that type of stuff at the job, and that we have to release you," and that's when I put my badge down on the desk.
Wow. Then what happened? Did you get escorted out?
Yes, sir, I got escorted out, but before I got escorted out, they got my stuff out my locker.
And they didn't even let you go back to your own locker?
No, sir, they did not let me go to my locker.
Now, how long had you worked there, Earlene?
I worked there almost 5 weeks.
Okay, so this was a new job for you, and you went through the training program. They never said you couldn't do this, and you were answering all our questions, right? I'm not really sure why they did this. Now, you were on my radio show today, and I feel terrible about this for you.
Yes,
and you live in, I can say you live in Panama City. That's okay, right?
Yes, sir, that's fine.
All right, and so what we're doing, the response today, after we set up a special site email on my website, jobs@hannity.com. It's been overwhelming, and we're going to send all of these emails to you, and people want to send you stuff.
Okay.
And people are stepping up. We already have one job offer that we know of for you. We're going to pass it all on to you as quickly as we can. What is your reaction to people wanting to help you this way?
I wasn't really expecting much of anything, but it's a blessing from God, so I'm really happy.
Yeah, well, I'm happy. And just for people that didn't listen to the radio show, we calculated what your yearly income would be, and I'm going to gift money to both you and your son and give you a year's salary so that you don't have to worry in this interim while you're waiting for a job. I hope that makes you happy, too.
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you so much.
There are more than 10 newspapers that have had to close their doors. like Noticiario and Delta Amacuro. 5 more are at risk, including Carabobo and La Costa.
The Venezuelan government has expelled CNN reporters from within its borders as unrest continues to intensify within the country. The expulsion comes after multiple warnings that the network would be banned from the country if they did not bring coverage in line with the message of the state-run media. President Nicolas Maduro said on Thursday, "Enough war propaganda. I do not accept war propaganda against Venezuela. If they do not rectify things, get out of Venezuela, CNN, get out." The move leaves almost no television networks left in the country aside from the state-run networks, which have largely ignored the national unrest.
Now we start with our breaking news story, of course, which centers in Ukraine, where the administration, we're getting reports from the Ukrainian media, in fact, and that President Yanukovych has left the capital, Kyiv. He's apparently en route to Kharkiv in the northeast of the country, and Yanukovych is facing impeachment after agreeing to early elections and a return to an earlier version of the constitution. That's among other concessions. Well, now we can cross live to RT's Igor Piskunov, who can give us an update from Kyiv. Hi there, Igor. Well, can you tell us about, it's looking that this bill to impeach President Yanukovych might be going ahead. How did that come about?
Well, the events really are unfolding very quickly here in Kyiv, and according to the latest news, President Viktor Yanukovych has left the Ukrainian capital to the eastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv to attend the summit of southeastern regions of Ukraine. And all of this comes as the Rada, the country's parliament, is now looking at impeaching the Ukrainian leader. And also earlier they voted to release the former prime minister of the country and one of the leaders of the opposition, Yulia Tymoshenko, from jail. We understand that that could happen as soon as by March. It just depends on how long it's going to take to break through all the red tape. And earlier they've returned the country to the 2004 constitution, when or where the president has much less powers than just less than 24 hours ago. So the events really are happening quite quickly and developing quite rapidly. Also, the leaders of the opposition, including one of the leaders of the far-right opposition, have reached officially a ceasefire with Ukrainian officials. The U.S. and Poland have said that Russia played a major role in that situation. But nonetheless, we're also hearing from other leaders of the far-right wing movement, the radicals, who've also said that if Yanukovych doesn't step down before 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, then they are prepared to start storming government buildings, presumably including the presidential palace. But that was said before news about Yanukovych leaving the capital came out. So now we don't really know if that's going to happen or not. Now, in the meantime, the police have completely left the city center. It is fully controlled by the opposition. They've also organized block posts on the main roads leading out of the city and leading to its main airports. And reportedly, the rioters are checking cars, checking IDs of people looking for members of the parliament to ensure that none of them leave the country.
All right, RT's
is bold, brilliant, and a bit questionable to some. A 13-year-old Girl Scout set up a table selling cookies outside of a marijuana dispensary in San Francisco. That's the spirit of entrepreneurship. Boy, did she clean up. Pot, it seems, stimulates the appetite. Her mother got permission ahead of time, but would you let your daughter do it? The shop welcomed her, according to a staff member.
After 45 minutes, she had to call for reinforcement cookies, backups. And her mother was quoted saying that she sold about 117 boxes in 2 hours.
Now, my daughter actually sold Girl Scout cookies at the St. Patrick's Day parade, so I can't really condemn this woman. But the Girl Scouts say that, look, safety is the #1 concern, but where a Scout decides to sell is really up to her parents.